who really doesn't have some form of a mother wound? Very few of us do not have a mother wound. It's still an internal wound that hurts your inner child that can last into your adulthood until you figure out who you are.
Once I healed, I realized karmically my mother was my teacher of compassion. Because she just didn't seem to have the mother gene, I tried to turn myself inside, outside, backwards to try and get her to show me that she loved me, and it just never kind of happened. One of my things that I've had to work on is feeling worthy of receiving love.
It took a lot of work to actually accept my mum's just showing up how she needs to show up. That's just my relationship with my mum. And once I let that go and let the expectations go and what society was showing, once I did that, I was able to see her more, but also that pressure was lifted because you weren't projecting expectations that they could never meet.
That's her, this is me, and there's this process of delineating what I got patterned into me from her nervous system and how she relates to reality, accepting her for who she is, but not using it as an excuse for me to be in a reaction to her.
Who would I be without the weight of my family? People would ask us like, oh, what would you change in your life? And honestly, I would not change anything because all of these experiences have made me who I am. All of my responses, all of my reactions, all of my choices have taken me to where I am today.
Hello, beautiful souls. It is Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. But before we dive into today's Wisdom Circle, I have a small request from my heart. If our conversations ever resonate with you or support you on your journey, please subscribe to our channel or like this video. It helps us grow Sacred You, welcome more powerful voices into this space, and keep you connected to everything we share. Thank you so much for walking this path with us, and let us begin with today's conversation. Welcome to our incredible Wisdom Circle, our next edition of Healing the Mother Wound, Honoring the Mother Line, something that is very close, not just to my heart, but I think to everyone's heart in the entire world, because yes, we all have wonderful experiences with our mothers right from the generations. With us today is the beautiful Tywanah EVETTE, otherwise known as Thunderbird Rising, who's brought this incredible Wisdom Circle to Sacred You that we have the honour of presenting. I'm going to hand it over to you, Tywanah, to let us know about you and this Wisdom Circle and introduce this wonderful panel of amazing women that are with you today. So thank you ever so much, and we will see you next.
Thank you, Sophia, for the introduction. Welcome, everyone. As Sophia, the lovely Sophia mentioned, I'm Tywanah EVETTE, also known by my Native American name, Thunderbird Rising. And this Wisdom Circle is so special to me. It had to be first this year, because who really doesn't have some form of a mother wound? Very few of us, I'm finding, in today's generation, do not have a mother wound. And whether that was she was not affectionate, or, you know, she didn't provide for you, or she chose other people, it's still an internal wound that hurts your inner child that can last into your adulthood until you figure out who you are. So I am Thunderbird Rising. I am a shaman, high priestess, and a spiritual guide, and I now lead professional women into their next level of power. I am no longer guiding just individuals. I am guiding people in the corporate circles now. So excited about that, those changes. But I have the honor of being with these amazing ladies. And look, I know all of them and you don't. I'm going to give you the chance to get to know them, but they're my friends. You can't have them. I'm just joking. Anyway, Just wanting to bring a little lightness and humor into the space before we get into this very serious, deep topic. So, Elizabeth, would you please introduce your glorious self to us?
Thank you so much, Tywanah. I'm so honored to be here. For me, it's evening. I live in Lawrence, Kansas, right in the geographic center of the United States. I'm a stress management and historical trauma specialist and ancestral clearing practitioner. And one of my specialties within the ancestral healing is the mother, is the part, a whole piece around the mother. So it's my pleasure, real distinct pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Next on my screen, Fanny.
Thanks, Tywanah. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm Fanny Krinsman, and I live in Denver, Colorado, in the US. I facilitate embodiment and people coming home to their true selves through the body. I do that through teaching about structures and consciousness and how the human body actually works. It's more than just a mechanical structure. It's just an honor to be on this panel. I learned so much last time I was here, and there's so much more to be explored. So I'm very excited for today's conversation. So thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Rolly, I want to honor you.
So Gigado Migunkwe is my spirit name, which means talking feather woman. And I am in Northeastern Ontario, Canada, in a very small community. And so I work with women who have anxiety, and I work with the cycles, all the cycles, but I bring it all together with what I refer to as moon medicine, which incorporates healing energies as well as the lunar cycles, as well as the astrological signs, crystals, tarot cards, all those things. I bring all these things together to help women work through their own cycles of getting through what it is that they need to do. And I love this conversation. And every time that we work with our mother wounds, we get to heal 7 generations forward as well as 7 generations back. So I am really honored to be here today.
Yes, yes. I love that you mentioned that, because that's one of my favorite little fact. Catherine?
Apologies, I froze before.
No, it's okay.
So my name is Catherine CRESTANI. I am a soul activator, intuitive healer, and a multi-dimensional guide. So I help people find their way back to themselves so that they can live in peace, power, and in their purpose. Because when we're truly in flow and aligned with who we're meant to be on that soul level, that's when the magic truly, truly happens. And I love this topic because I had to do so much work on my mother wound. And then once I started healing it, that's when all the secrets started to come out in my family, including that we're from a line of white witches. So it was all very hidden and everything, but it was only when I was able to start working on myself that it actually, exactly like Rolly said, started to heal 7 generations back and hopefully all the generations to come as well.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And we have our guest here, my heart, one of my soul sisters, Janet. So if you'd like to say hello and quickly tell us what you do with your visible transitions. This lady's amazing, guys.
Thanks, Tywanah. It's so nice to be here with you all. I'm Janet Kaleri, founder of Visible Transitions. It's a photo methodology using curiosity and a camera. It helps you regulate your nervous system, see what truly is, decrease stress and anxiety. And I am the one stopping generational trauma.
I love that. I love that. Elizabeth, I know you love that too. I know you love that too. So I love that you said that. So ladies, I know one of the things that I had to do, because all of you know, but the viewers may not know, I'm a medium. And my mother's the head of my spirit team. That was fun. So one of the things that I had to do was like some very deep forgiveness work surrounding my mother's lineage, because even though I forgave her before she transitioned, there was still some attachments and things that were from her lineage that I wasn't aware needed healing. And I became resentful for them because I'm like, this isn't mine. This is not mine. I have enough to heal. This is not mine. And so we work through that together. Again, I'm a medium. I can see her. I can hear her. She's right here. She's always talking. But it was still work. And a lot of it had to be done through the subconscious. So she had me, people call it scripting, scrying, whatever you call it, where you're writing from the subconscious. Everybody's got a different name for it. She had me sitting outside, bundled up in DC winter nights with snow on the ground, with a heated blanket and a huge Canada Goose coat, doing this subliminal, subconscious forgiveness work. And I looked up one day and I had this stack of journals, and suddenly the resentment that I had built up from my mother's bloodline was gone. And now I have nothing but love for all of them, and compassion and understanding. Can anyone else relate to that journey and tell me how you work through it?
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Catherine.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I always had this version of how my mum was supposed to be, because all my friends had these very like nurturing mums. They showed up all the time. They went out of their way to do everything. My mum wasn't like that at all. And it took a lot of work to actually accept, actually, my mum's just showing up how she needs to show up. And once I accepted that, and people were like, oh, have you spoken to your mum? I'm like, no, I haven't spoken to her for months, and that's okay, because we'll just pick up again once we reconnect again. And a lot of people found that really strange. But at the same time, I went, well, that's just my relationship with my mum. And once I let that go and let the expectations go and what society was showing, and accepted that, yeah, my mum's not the mum that will get up in the morning and cook me a chicken schnitzel sandwich to take to university. Like, I accepted that, right, that's fine. That's not my mum. And once I did that, I was able to see her more, but also that pressure was lifted because you weren't projecting expectations that they could never meet in your life. Yes. So I find that was a big shift that I had was, you know, when you expect someone to do something, even though you know they can't do it or they're not capable of it, you're just setting up for failure constantly. So when you take that pressure away, it allows you to grow more, as well as your relationship, however that looks, with your mum and your grandparents and so forth.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've had to apologize to my own children. My own children have mama trauma, and I'm not afraid or ashamed to admit it. My trauma spilled over into their lives. So now, as we are rebuilding, it's different. They know what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of. And I've acknowledged that I am the mother I needed. I was not the mother they needed. So while I did get up and make them bacon biscuits to take to school with them, and they would come home from university with an empty box and go shopping in my home, you know, I still wasn't what they needed. I still wasn't everything they needed.
My experience was that my mother was really tormented. She was undiagnosed and untreated bipolar and suffered with chronic pain. And so my journey as a child was, I walked on eggshells, and interestingly enough, I didn't know it at the time because I didn't have that kind of consciousness, but I do now. And I think we all do it, we just maybe don't are conscious of it. I did everything I could to take on her stuff, to try and, because I couldn't do anything. I had no power, right? But I didn't understand energetics at the time as a kid. But isn't that interesting that that was a strategy that I was using, and that didn't come from nowhere. That came in as information already in the system, you know? Yes. So I see a little, it took me a while to get to, I went on a journey because I was always making excuses for my mother, and I wasn't ever taking care of the the part of me that got traumatized. So I kind of had to go on a journey and like level that playing field. And ultimately, once I healed, I realized karmically my mother was my teacher of compassion. That's why she came in, was to teach me compassion. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell with that. Another little piece, just because I think it's important, is because she just didn't seem to have the mother gene, the affection wasn't there. It was like I tried to turn myself inside, outside, backwards to try and get her to show me that she loved me, and it just never kind of happened. So one of my things that I've had to work on is feeling worthy of receiving love, just as a piece. So that's been another part of my journey. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
I'm glad you did. That's been a huge, Janet knows, that's been a huge part of my journey too. Feeling worthy of receiving, period. Like, not just love, period. Fanny, you're shaking your head. Yes. What's going on in there? I want to know what's going on.
It's interesting. This is the topic that's coming up right now because that's something I'm currently working on, is the ability to receive unconditionally. And I'm pretty good about it, not with family, like everybody but family. I'm pretty good with it. It's like receiving doesn't feel safe to me. And it's something that I've been like uncovering for a while now. And it's definitely related to my mother. And I was just reading this thing about how like your connection to your mother is like, just like our connection to the land. It's like our mother gives us everything in those first few years of our life. She feeds us, she holds us, she gives us our nervous system, she gives us our heart rhythm, all of those things. And my mom is aloof, as a generous, term to to give. And I was invisible. Like I just felt energetically invisible. I had an older brother who was challenging, and my mom just like, and I'm similar to Catherine in that like a lot of the work has just been like, that's her, and this is me. And there's this process of delineating like what I got patterned into me from her nervous system and how she relates to reality, and how I am as an embodied adult. And like a big part of it is just like being the adult, like the resentment you were speaking of at the beginning. It's like I run into that. I'm like, I've been mothering my mother since I was 13 years old, and I'm like, I don't want to be the grown-up anymore. But there's the other part of me, it's like, but somebody has to be, and you're very good at it. So so there's this delicate dance between accepting her for who she is, but not using it as an excuse for me to be in a reaction to her as well. So it is quite the dance. And now I'm also a mother, so I'm watching it very closely as as I bring
It
this
makes us hyper vigilant.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it makes us super hyper vigilant. And I wanted to touch on you talking about having to be the mother. My middle child had to be the mother. And that was because I had two near fatal car wrecks within a few years of each other. And so I was down. The pain, my kidneys were failing. I was having all of these seizures and medical issues and things like that. And part of her resentment was she had to be the mother. And I tell her all the time how proud of her I am for how brave she was to cut me out of her life to do what she needed to do for her. And I am proud of her for that. And I tell her that all the time. I cannot imagine, just as I was wailing in pain, I can't imagine the pain that she went through, having to cut her only parent out. I was a single parent. So she's cutting her only parent off. And so, we've really got to be mindful when we're talking about, and I'm going to get to you in a second, Rolly, because I know you've got some good stuff for this. we have to be careful when we're talking about this generation that's coming up, that's rising up right now, because this generation has it right. We were not supposed to be silenced. Children were not supposed to be seen and not heard. All of the isms that were spoken to us as children were wrong. Children are supposed to be heard. They're supposed to be seen. They're supposed to be paid attention to. If they're crying, there's something wrong, either physically or energetically. And it's for us to figure it out, not them. So, Rolly, I know you've got some good stuff.
So just yeah, so just very interestingly, there's many things that you guys have all talked about that like really kind of it's like, oh, that fits, or that this or that. And so, but the one that is like you talking about your daughter and having to set that boundary of cutting her parents out. So we grew up in very dysfunctional environment. My mom was very abusive. My dad was an alcoholic. However, my dad did all that he could to try and protect us. But I was the eldest of the four kids and the four girls, and I was parentified, and so I was the mother of my children, of my sisters. And then there was lots of resentment for that. And like my sisters had a lot of resentment towards me for that. And so then when I went away to family treatment, I had went away and I was going off and doing my thing, and to come home to people telling me that I had gone off the deep end, that there was definitely something wrong with me, that there is like, and that's the reason why I had disappeared, and all those kinds of things that had happened. And it was a chosen decision to go away to a family treatment program and to allow myself to be able to look after myself. And I had set the boundaries with my parents. And so I had worked towards being able to take on that very difficult decision, because I always wanted to be able to help, and I always wanted to be, I was very codependent. And so, and sometimes still am. And that I had worked really, really hard at being able to set those limits and setting those boundaries, and to be told that to completely deface what it is that I had been going on and healing was very, very difficult. My mom and I have a fairly decent relationship now, but I've had to let go, as Catherine had said, of like the expectations and not putting things forward. And so like when I had my own children, my mom and dad did not look after my children. And so my sisters had my parents looking after their kids, and that was never an issue for them. But for me, it was like, no, I don't want to put them in that type of environment. And so even after my dad had stopped drinking, well, actually my dad had never drank from the time that when my kids had been born. So I have my niece that is just before my kids that also had never experienced my dad drinking. So from that stage on, my dad had remained sober. And so my dad and I had actually worked through a lot of things together. And because we had gone through the different things, but his mom is who my support. She was my support, my person, the person that I could actually relate with, that could actually help support me. And so my dad was the black sheep of the family. And so although it's not that female lineage, that mother lineage, she was that person who allowed me to be able to figure out who I could be independently, who I was able to be able to take care of myself and my children, and to be able to move forward. And so, and as you guys are all talking, and the different things that are actually going on, is that I have taken on a role of caring for someone else's little peanut. And so I struggle with the expectations of what I would expect this child's mother to be doing. And so it's like I have to remember that this is their journey, not my journey, that I'm only here to help guide her and to be able to provide her that support that my grandmother provided me, that allowed me to be able to grow to who it is that I need to be. And so one of the things that I often say to this mom is that this little peanut has 9 lives, and she's going to be teaching us something. There is something about her own spirit and the things that she's been able to overcome at such a young age that reminds me of how powerful that connection can be. And so her grandmother has passed on. And so I really truly believe that her grandmother is a true link to that female lineage, that connection. So even though there's a break between mom and her, there is that very strong connection to her grandmother, and I feel that very, very strongly and very connected to that piece. And so I am a great honor, like, so I am taken on that role of her grandmother, of being able to help provide that support for her. And so, and that just came to me as I was talking today. I was like, oh, this is where this is coming from. So yeah, I love when we get those insights and those ahas, when we're kind of like, what am I doing? What's going on? Where is this coming from? But it's that healing that we actually get to do, of being able to bring things to that next level, and being able to be part of that connection. And yeah, so thank you.
So while you were talking about the baby, I heard warrior spirit. That's what I heard about the baby. Warrior. So I know that kind of went off to the side. I hope I don't get in trouble. Anyway, I'm glad that you're, able to do that and able to be there and be that resource for, the baby and the mom, because maybe mom just needs somebody to show her. None of us are really shown, we're not. They don't come with manuals. You would think with all the technology, AI and everything, we would have a parenting manual by now, but we don't. But I know personally, for me, knowing that it stopped with me, like Janet said, knowing that it stopped here, and that as I repair my relationship with my children, the less my grandchildren have to go through, the less their children are going to have to go through, even though I don't want to think about that because they're 9 and 11. It excites me knowing that when I depart, there won't be this heavy lineage of vows of silence, vows of poverty. But because, I come from, like Catherine said, I come from a long line of white witches. And so there were vows that were taken that affected my life, and in turn, my children's lives, that I had no idea about. And so there won't be any of that. And that's what excites me, knowing that one of my legacies in this lifetime, because I tell people all the time, your legacy is not your 401k. That's an inheritance. Your legacy is your name and what you did with it while you were here. What does your name mean when someone speaks it in a room? So, Elizabeth, I'm interested in knowing your viewpoint on the legacy that we're leaving our children, this beautiful gift of healing.
Well, thank you for the question. It also stops here with me as well. But I would say that I just changed the path. I'm just like, we're not going this way. We're gonna go this way, right? And I'd like to just bring this in because it was so profound for me. My family has a big history. We know we have records that go beyond 12 generations on one side and even longer on another side. So that imprinted on me, just kind of all that information and knowledge. It was kind of like a thing. And I spent the summer of 2017 with this question: who would I be without the story of my family? And I'm not saying that I can be without the story, but that I can actually exist without the energy of the story of my family. I'm just saying I entertained it as an inquiry to try and find some balance around the weight that I was feeling around the lineage and all the things that have gone down, right? And I really felt like that in the ancestral clearing world, the way we look at things is we do the work, we have this relationship with source, and we're looking at all versions of me, all my relationships, right, all our ancestors and all of their relationships, and we're working in the quantum field in the present moment of consciousness, so we've got access to all of it. And so we like to say, from that point of view, that when we do the work, we're clearing it all. We're clearing it front, back, and there's no limitation. That limitation of the 7 generations front and back, I asked my teachers about that because they brought that in, and I have a science background. I'm like, well, what's the limitation, right? And they said, because that's what science can measure. And I was like, aha. Right? So, but that's what we can observe, measure, and describe. But we live in the all that is, not just what science can observe, measure, and describe. And so when you're looking at it from that quantum space, we kind of see like a different power dynamic involved. So you asked about legacy. The legacy is, what choice am I making now in this moment? Because the choice that I make in this moment is the one this is where the power is, the choice that I'm taking here. So that's just a completely different perspective, but you asked.
No, I love it. I love it. And I'm so glad that you brought up the quantum field, because we do live in both worlds right now, right? All of us sitting here are living in both worlds. And so, yes, it is an infinite field. And I never made that connection. So thank you for the education today. I needed that. And it's right on time, Elizabeth, always right on time. Does anybody else want to chime in?
Chime in. I'll chime in. I'm really enjoying this curious conversation, and I resonate and align with all of your stories and your experiences. And about 3.5 years ago, I had an epiphany. And even though I've gone through many years of self-realization and metaphysical work and whatnot, there was something I still wasn't seeing, and that was the abuse. So that moment gave me that power. I had this information now, and I felt liberated. Now I have this information, and I have different choices from that information. So my choice was radical agency, and is still radical agency. And what does it look like? And in terms like with my mom, low contact and meeting her where she's at. So offering her empathy, just listening, even though I'm hearing the same things over and over, just listen, give some empathy. And then there's no power dynamic anymore. It's just, It is what it is, right? And no expectations, no wishing. The wishing was the most painful journey. Yeah. The wishing more than the expectations. And and attempting so diligently to grow the relationship and become connected in a way that was so important to me. It's just not going to happen. I'm okay with it.
But that's why we have spirit family.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we can choose each other as connections. Fanny, I saw you shaking, you were doing this. What was going on in here? I want to know what was going on.
I was just interested in everything that I do works around choice. And it's like, ultimately, you have two choices as a human, and that's to live out your pattern, which is the default choice, right? And that like ties into the story that Elizabeth's talking about with like, who would I be without my family story? There's this historical family, there's cultural story, there's your personal story. All of those things bind you into a pattern of existence that is very small and repetitive. And then the other choice you have is to act from now, from the truth of your being. And that choice brings you into your potential, it brings you into your truth, into your creativity, all of those things. But without the awareness of those other things, you don't actually have that choice. And it's a very paradoxical in that sense, because it's like you can just be now and act from now and come from your heart. But if you don't know the ways that you aren't that, you don't really have the choice to choose that. And it, to me, like, as a broader sense of like the mother wound, it's like coming into human consciousness, you build separation, and that is like the ultimate mother wound, and you're coming into matter and into earth, into form, and the contract in that is forgetting your continuity with the isness, and that pain then drives these stories and hooks us into these lineages. And so I really liked that, the nowness, the present moment that we have access to. But awareness, you have to have the awareness of all of the strings that are puppeting you in order to
Exactly.
cut them off and choose your direction. So
Exactly. I love that you talked about that. Catherine, I see you thinking. I'm watching your thoughts. I'm not
Um,
reading you, but I'm watching your thoughts.
Recently, I got taught that you can delete your past at any time. And when you Control Alt delete it, I always think of that because grew up on a Windows system, delete everything off.
Uh-huh.
Everything shifts because you're no longer letting that past perspective dictate where you are now. So if you can realize that by being in the present, you can delete your past because it's just a perspective. And so often, we'll go to our mothers or our parents or our grandparents and say, "Hey, do you remember when you did that to me?" They're like, "I don't know what you're talking about." They were able to get that out, but it might have been such a profound impact on you and such a little thing that happened. Whereas if you just delete that out of your system, and we're moving consciously into this beautiful energy where it can be that quick. It can be you just go, okay, I am observing that, I accept that, I am letting it go, and I'm moving forward. And it doesn't have to be this big anchor thing where you sit there and you unpack the wound, you unpack the wound, you unpack the wound. We've moved collectively away from that. It's enough now just to observe it, accept it, and let it go and feel it. You got to feel it first. If you ignore the feeling and the emotion, it's not going to shift because your body needs it to be acknowledged in some way. So sitting in that emotion and feeling it. So even this morning, I was freaking angry. I don't even know why. I was just so angry and I was trying so hard not to take it out on my little human, and I'm like, why am I so angry? Like these things don't even bother me. Why am I angry that I'm putting a glass in the dishwasher for goodness sake, even though it wasn't mine? And when I sat there and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be angry. But that's all it wanted. I just wanted that acknowledgement. I just wanted that feeling. And then it shifted. And I was like, oh, okay, that was amazing. Like, thank you. I didn't want to stay in this mood all day. So it's very
Yeah.
much, you can shift things that quickly. And yes, it's not trivializing what you went through because your story makes you who you are. But at the same time, you don't have to live by that story if you choose not to. You can step out of it at any moment. And as Fanny was saying, it's always your choice. You can choose at any moment to go, I'm done with this. I'm stepping into a new timeline. I'm done with this. I'm stepping into a new version of me. And yes, there's fate, destiny, all those sorts of things. But in the end, you always have divine will and you always have the ability to choose. So don't become a victim of the story. Choose to become someone who creates something new.
Oh, that gave me chills, girl. That gave me chills. Rolly, did you get chills behind that? Because I did.
So I really like what Elizabeth had said, and I typed it in the chat because I didn't want to forget it.
Yeah.
Is that who would you be? Who would I be without the weight of my family? And so I always, I know, believe, and trust that all of my experiences. Somebody has people would ask us like, "Oh, what would you change in your life?" And honestly, I would not change anything because it is who all of these experiences have made me who I am. All of my responses, all of my reactions, all of my choices have taken me to where I am today. And had these things not have happened, then I would not be who I am, because I would not have had those experiences that helped to shape me into the person that I am. And there are days that I reflect back going like, oh, that wasn't the best choice that I should have made. And oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done this, or that definitely sounded like my mother. And so like there's just different things like that that I need to remember, that it's like I need those experiences in order for me to be able to have that response. And so, Tawana, one of the things that you had said about the mom is that you had, it's like she may simply need that guidance. And so last week I was short-tempered with her and frustrated because, as Catherine said, I had those expectations of what I think that she should and shouldn't be doing. And I have to remember that that is not my experience. That is not what it is, that the purpose of what it is that I'm supposed to be doing isn't about trying to figure out what's right and wrong. I just need to make sure that the baby's safe, and that my responsibility
Right.
is making sure that she's safe, and being able to release that frustration. But we are human, and we do fall back into some of those patterns. And so last night during one of my circle last night, one of the things we decided to do was pull cards. And so when we were pulling cards, one of the cards that came up for me was that I need to remember my gifts. And that kind of like smacked me, because it's like I've been so overconsumed over the last 2 years of all the things. It's like that I'm not in tune with my own self and all the things as I could be, because I've disconnected from some of the things of having to do all the rote things that have needed to happen. And it's like, no, I need to. So I've been working at finding my space. So my kitchen is my space. That is where I get to lovingly cook for my family and friends and sit and have tea and all those things. So my kitchen is definitely something that I have been really hyper focused on, trying to get organized, getting things done, and reshifting and treating myself to the things that I want to have in my kitchen again. And so because that is part of my nurturing, that is part of, so my both of my grandmothers they were really big on the kitchen was someplace where we could actually make sure that everybody was coming together, we can eat meals together, we can do all these things. And my mom's mom, it was also my grandfather's belief as well, but my mom's mom would be the one that would be there making this great big huge bowl of bread. And at a very young age, I had learned how to be able to make bread and have that opportunity to do that with my grandmother. I was one of the oldest, well, I was the oldest grandchild. And so, but I was also the oldest female grandchild. So that allowed me to be able to have that opportunity of the roles of being in the kitchen. And so I had that experience of being able to be with my aunts and helping, because it was like huge. It was like this great big humongous bowl. And so like it was like many hands in there to like get it kneading and doing all those things. But there was always food. There was always, it didn't matter what time of the day that you came into their home, there was always food. And so the kitchen for me is really important. And so when I decided that I was taking that space and recreating that space into being my space again, that is just what I need to do. And so that's what I've been hyper focused on in the last month, is getting all those things going so that I can reclaim that part of me that allows me to be able to nourish myself as well as others that come into my space.
I love that. My mom had this way of cooking. My mother wrote 6 cookbooks in her penmanship, and it's my job to have them published. And she could bring enemies together over a bowl of whatever it was she made. And there wasn't a nationality of food that my mother could not cook. Not one. We're Caribbean, Irish, and Native. So, you know, very different eating styles, but she could make everything wonderfully. And she could bring enemies together. The only reason my oldest sister and I still spoke even 5 years ago was because of my mother 30 years ago. So those are the good things that we inherit, right? My love of talking to people, my care, my concern, my empathy, all of that comes from my mother's bloodline. So we've talked about some of the lesser loving qualities about our mothers. Before we wrap up, ladies, I would love for all of us to say something kind about our mother line. Like, what did we get? What does it do for us? Because without the mother line, I wouldn't be a shaman, high priestess, medium out here helping people. So I love my mother line. Go ahead, darling.
So I wanted to start on this one because I really like it really like jumped at me is that as much as there was lots of conflict with my mom, is that compassion and that desire to help and wanting to be the person who can do the things that need to be done. And so yeah, so that definitely comes from within my own mother line because it also carried with my grandmother and her mother as well. And so I had the privilege of being able to meet my great grandmother many, many years ago. I was very young, but I still recall that energy of being around her and having those that compassion and that caring. And that is definitely something that carries through our mother line for at least four generations anyway.
Oh, I wish I had known my great grandmother. Anyone else before we wrap up? Go ahead, Catherine.
I keep jumping in front of Elizabeth. Sorry.
I didn't.
Well, I'm very blessed because my great grandmother on my mother's side, she is one of my spirit guides, and she was the first person that came to me when I started my spiritual journey again. And I just remember crying and crying. But I'm incredibly grateful to my mum because she actually was the first person to cause me to question the medical system and question when you get things told to you about your child and it's conflicting with what your intuition is saying. And I watched her do it with my sister. She went to specialist after specialist, and they all kept saying the same thing. And it was finally the fourth specialist who didn't want to operate and said, actually, I think this child has allergies, that my sister was saved from so many surgeries and ongoing procedures because it was just her immune system having a reaction. It was through my mum fighting and not believing the doctors because her gut was telling her something else that saved my sister from all of those things. And I carried that into when I had my son, when everyone told me I had to get his tongue tie cut and all these other things. I'm like, he doesn't have any of those things. I just need help learning to feed him because I have a physical shoulder issue. And through pushing back and doing that, he actually, there was nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong with him. They were looking for something wrong. It was just we needed help bridging that connection. And so that is such a beautiful gift that I got from my mother, where it was like, actually, no, I'm going to fight for what I feel is right for my child and trust my intuition in that moment.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I love it. Elizabeth?
I love all these things. They're great. I would not call myself a medium, but I would definitely call myself somebody who's in touch with my intuition. That was a gift. Although it's so interesting because my immediate family they didn't recognize any of that. So I still had it. It was pretty cool. The other thing was mad creative skills. I mean, I just don't even know. I can't even like it. It's very humbling. I have to say, it's like, wow.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
then the other one that I'll bring in was the gift of gratitude, which I didn't make up, but as a little one who was like getting in trouble for anything and everything and not being able to see any pattern except there's no pattern and it's all dysfunctional and all that kind of stuff. There was gratitude. So it didn't matter how gnarly it got. I always had like, well, I've got a warm home to live in and I've got food in my belly and I've got a bed to sleep in and I had, clothes to wear and I had, I didn't think that up. It was just, there it was. Mm-hmm. Right. So powerful gifts. I mean, those are just three. I'll bow to everybody else, but those are just three that come to mind right away.
Very, very powerful. Thank you, Elizabeth. And last but never least, never least, Penny, you're never least.
Released. Thank you. Yeah, my mom really passed on self-responsibility, which I think was a huge thing. And she also, though she wasn't very in touch with herself or intuitive herself, she always saw it and acknowledged it in me ever since I was a little girl. She'd always be like, if you had a feeling about something, I just went with it because you were always right about those things. And so even though she didn't really know, she hasn't done a lot of awareness work, she didn't know what was going on. She like instilled in me that I know, which is a huge gift, I would say. And just as an interesting aside that you brought this topic up, when Catherine was talking about, when Catherine was talking about like, you can just do it now, you can just like, you can be like, oh, this is what I'm feeling, this is what's going on, I can refocus. And how the collective consciousness has come to this point now, I was like, oh, it's because all these other people have been clearing their lineages. So it's not all this freaking baggage being carried around anymore. And now we're just like here. And so as another gift that is a more, universal mother line thing. Thank you.
Exactly. I like that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And yes, I want to go back. I'm glad you mentioned that so really quickly because I know we're going to wrap up now. Catherine, thank you for mentioning the fact that we can decide, okay, I'm just going to be angry right now. I don't know why the hell I'm angry, but I'm just going to be angry right now because that's the inner child that was never heard. And they're shaking their little fists. Like when I'm reading people, I get these little images of little baby people shaking their little fists. And even I had an inner child day last week where I was just like, you know what? I'm not functioning. I put on my onesie, my Disney onesie, and I did not function. And yes, I live in Florida, and yes, it was hot, but I did not care. I put on the fan. We have to reparent ourselves as well. So we become the parents that we needed. So Janet, before I close out, would you like to add anything to this?
Thank you. Yeah, I want to honor my maternal grandmother. Her nickname was Homie. She was a tiny thing, and she was all about fun and play. She didn't take life too seriously. And one time she came through a reading, and her message was, do not listen to your family. You get to rewrite the script of your life. Rewrite the script of your life. It's a powerful message.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful. And I could go on and on and on with these ladies about this topic all day, but can you believe it? We're at the end of our hour. So I want to honor each and every one of you for being here. I thank you. Your time is the most valuable thing you can give me. And I am so grateful that all of you chose to be here with us today. Everyone, check out the links that are under the video. And that is today's Sacred Wisdom Circle on the mother wound and healing the mother line. I hope you will join us next month for another episode. We will see you soon.